Okay everybody, this is my version of shrimp ramen. There are so many different kinds of ramen and different styles of cooking it, but after lots of trial and error, this is what I've come up with, the way I like it. And we'll go through the ingredients. So we have ginger, mirin, soy sauce, hot chili oil, stir-fried vegetables, some wonton powder, paprika, chicken broth, shrimp, rice, some bonito flakes. We have Japanese thin udon noodles. We have some seaweed flakes, 3 eggs, garlic, carrot, onion, mushrooms, and cabbage and green onions. So that's basically what you'll need to get going for my style of cooking it. And let's get started. Okay, we're gonna get out a big pot, and first thing we're gonna do is add the chicken broth. Okay, on top of the chicken broth, I'm going to go ahead and add about 8 cups of water. We want to have a little extra because quite a bit's going to cook off as we go here. Okay, the first thing is we're going to go ahead and cut up our garlic and our onions and get that going. Okay, we got the broth and the water going on high heat and coming up to a boil. We're going to go ahead and put our onions and garlic in here. We're going to go ahead and take our wonton powder and probably add about 5 or 6 tablespoons to it and get a little flavor and seasoning going there. And you can do this to taste. One thing I didn't list in the ingredients section is instead of salting the soup like crazy, I'll go ahead and do a few chicken bouillons and we'll throw those in there, and that'll just kind of help out too instead of over salting, because the bouillons are pretty much salt anyways. Okay, it's not fresh ginger, which is always the best, but we're going to go ahead and give that a little squeeze in here and get some ginger going in the soup. The next thing is mirin, which I don't know a ton about, but it's in a lot of other people's recipes and stuff, and I just usually throw just a little bit in there, and seems to be a staple for this dish, so we'll go ahead and use it. Okay, the next thing is definitely the mushrooms. Mushrooms going in. These are the bonito flakes, bought at the Asian grocery store, and they add a lot of flavor. It's a dried fish kind of thing, and they last a long time in the cupboard, but we're going to put some of those in and get some flavor going. Okay, then the nori flakes or the seaweed flakes. They definitely add a little bit, which is quite nice, and usually enjoy just a touch of that in there. Okay, at this stage I like to do my carrots. That might be a little early for some people, but I think carrots really infuse some of the flavor. And don't get me wrong, there's a million ways to do proper homemade ramens, but everyone sort of can come up with their own style. Now, at this point now, I'll go ahead and we'll do some stirring. Okay, so we're going to stir this up here, and it's still on high heat, and everything just went in. And I like to add a little rice. It absorbs a bit of the water, and in the final dish you almost don't even know it's there, but just a tiny bit of rice in there just adds a little bit of depth to it. So we're going to let this go ahead and boil like crazy for probably about at least a half hour to 45 minutes, and then we'll get into our other ingredients. Okay, we got a bit of a boil going, so we turn the heat down a little bit to a boil simmer kind of thing. So we're gonna go ahead and add a little hot chili oil. Boy, and this is to taste, let me tell you, that can be hot. We're gonna throw a little soy in too, and just give it a little more flavor. The thing about ramen now at this point is you start testing the broth, you start tasting, and you start making it how you like it. There are so many different versions and so many different ways you can do it, but a little chili oil, a little ramen, and then we're going to go ahead and get our onions going here. We've had a boil going for about 30-40 minutes now, So we're gonna go ahead and take our green onions and we're gonna go ahead and get those in there now. And the order of importance of adding all these ingredients can change daily really, but depending on how my success was from the last one. But it's nice to switch it up, and I'll show you how keeping everything separately cooked really is the key. So we're going to let this go a while with the onions, and then we're going to do a taste test. Okay, we did a taste test, and so did Mr. Scooty here. And I've decided it's a little too hot on the chili oil for the way my wife likes it, so I'm just going to add a little bit more water, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, pretty happy with the broth taste and the amount of heat, so let's go ahead and get in our cabbage. This takes a bit longer, so we're going to get our cabbage going. I don't cut it too small. I leave some pretty big chunks, and that'll cook down and take a little extra time. Then we're going to add our rest of our little canned veggies here in a sec. Okay, we've been boiling for about 20 minutes and got it going pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and add just a regular old can of stir-fried vegetables. Now, believe me, I know this is not as good as fresh, but who has time for that? I'm not cooking all day here, so we're going to go ahead and add our stir-fried vegetables here. And that'll add what we need. If I was going to make a whole day of this for an 8-hour broth and all fresh vegetables, sure, I'd be into it. But for now, the can will have to do. Okay, broth is coming along nicely. We're going to go ahead and get the shrimp going here. A little bit of sesame seed oil, which is always the best. Olive oil will work too. So we'll get a little sesame seed oil in there, and then we'll go ahead and put our shrimp in. And we'll just do a little saute on that. Okay, paprika. We're gonna get some paprika going on that shrimp. Add a little color. I don't taste paprika that much. And I really like accent, which is something that just really brings out the flavor. Probably MSG, but you only live once. Okay, shrimp's about done. Looking good. We're just gonna go ahead and set that aside and turn the heat off on that. And that'll be ready for a little later. Okay, getting going on the famous soft-boiled eggs. So 4.5 usually does it. It's funny because the size of the egg can really make a difference, but I go 4.5 usually. If they're a little bigger, sometimes 5, and we'll deal with that in a bit. Okay, time for the noodles. These are the Japanese udons. So we'll put those in. They're not going to take very long, maybe just a couple minutes. I throw a little bit of olive oil on top of them. Helps them to not stick. So we'll just get those going here. Okay, the final assembly. This is the important part, putting it together at the last second. So we're going to go ahead and get some broth going. Some people like it more watery, some people like it thicker. I'm going to go ahead and pull 2 thick spoons out, then a couple of thin ones, and there's a pretty good bowl of it. It's looking pretty good. There's that. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to go ahead and take our noodles. And we're going to put some of those on, just a little bit on top, maybe a little more. There's that, and a good handful of shrimp. There we go, looking good. And we're going to put 1 soft-boiled egg in there, and we're going to go ahead and cut it and let that goodness come out. There we go. And that'll finish cooking in the broth, which is really hot. Top it all off, a little bit of cilantro and a little bit of sesame seed. And there it is, the shrimp ramen. Looks pretty good. Takes about an hour to an hour and a half, and that's my whole recipe. I appreciate you watching, and happy ramen cooking.